Hello, good afternoon, or good morning, depending on where you are. Welcome to Canada Helps Why Donate Securities webinar. Very pleased to see so many folks joining us today. My name is Julie Fiorini, and I am the General Manager of Donor Services and Brand Marketing for Canada Helps. Welcome. And before I introduce our brand ambassador and esteemed guest today, let me tell you a little bit about Canada Helps. On to the next slide, if we can, please. Great, thank you. So Canada Helps, for those who may not know, is actually a registered charity. And we are a charity that supports all Canadian charities, all 85,000 plus charities. And how we do that is through our platform, CanadaHelps.org, as well as the fundraising tools and technology that we provide at very affordable rates to charities across the country. And we've been around for over 24 years now, since 2000, and have been a trusted destination for people just like you on this webinar to make donations and support their favorite charities and causes. So we are so grateful that you select Canada Helps to do that. Since we've been around, over 4.5 million Canadians have actually donated over $3 billion to charities and causes across Canada, which is absolutely incredible. And again, like, we couldn't have done that without the support of generous Canadians like yourselves on this call. So thank you. And we are a free all-in-one solution for donors. As most of you, I'm sure, know, when you make a donation on Canada Helps, the majority of the funds go to the charities or the causes you're supporting, and a very small percentage has to be held back for transaction fees, as well as our operating costs. But it's a completely affordable solution, and we're very proud to continue offering that. And so without further ado, let me introduce our esteemed panelist today. Thanks for changing the slide. She is a renowned personal finance expert, media personality and author, former chief financial commentator for CTV News. I'm sure many of you have had the benefit of seeing her speak on many occasions on many different media outlets. 30-plus year career with TD Waterhouse Canada, certified financial planner, and also very notable, received Canada's Most Powerful Women Top 100 Award in the Trailblazers and Trendsetters category. Please join me in welcoming Pattie Lovett Reid today.
Hi, Julie. Oh, wow. Thank you so much for that introduction. I have to laugh. Top 100, I think, was about 150 years ago, but I so appreciate you including it. I have to tell you, I am so honored to be a brand ambassador for Canada Helps. And I can tell you why I feel that way. I feel that way because when I think about financial planning and when I think about three pillars, and it's like a three-legged stool. You save some money, you spend some money, and you give some money. And so often, if one gets out of balance, we feel it. And if you're actually sitting on the stool, you fall off. So you definitely feel it. But so does the economy, so does the country. A colleague of yours, Julie, Nicole, shared some stats that I'm just going to share with you. In a recent Canada Helps Giving report, the data revealed some really unfavorable trends and insights into charitable giving here in Canada. Now, here's what the report actually found. And this is the 11th consecutive year that they have been doing this survey, but the number of Canadians making charitable donations has decreased from 23.4%, and that was in 2010, to 17.7% in 2021. But here's what we all know. The demand continues to go higher, and there will be some that go without. But I also know, as a Canadian, as someone who's approached on a regular basis, you can't respond to every single request that you get. And so I kind of put, at least in our household, a 5-step process into place. And one of the things that we do, Julie, is we are crystal clear on what our values are as a family and what matters to us, what excites us. Because once we're clear on our values, then we get to sort of go down and we can explore the charities that are aligned to the values that we have. And then we educate ourselves on the charity itself. What do they do? How do they do it? That sort of thing. And then, depending on the year, because it can change, even our values don't change, but sometimes how we align those values to charities change. We sometimes give in our own backyard, in our own community, maybe in our province, in our country. And there have been times, sure, that we've gone internationally or globally with the charitable donations that we're making. But I can tell you that it is not always about the cash because not everyone always has cash. But that doesn't mean you can't give of yourself. And a really important component that I think has been growing in popularity, and Julie, this is why I'm so glad you're talking about it, it's giving of securities. And how do you do that? And how does it become a win-win? So I thank you for letting me kick this off. I'm delighted. Julie, if I can just say this to anybody who is on this call, I have another commitment, but if you have a question directly for me, I guarantee you that Julie will make sure I get it and I will respond to you. So Julie, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Pattie. We're so grateful that you took the time to be with us today. And we'll get right into the presentation. Take care, Pattie.
Thank you.
And I should also say, full disclaimer, Pattie is a certified financial planner. I am not. So let's just make that very clear. I am a CanadaHelps employee, but not in finance. But we do have experts on hand. So if anyone has any very complicated questions, we will get them to the people that can answer them, as well as Pattie, if you have any questions directly for her.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Pattie.
Thank you.
So in terms of agenda today, what we'll do is we'll start with the benefits of donating securities, go over the type of securities that can be donated on CanadaHelps, or to any charity for that matter. I'll share with you an example of the mechanics and the difference between donating securities directly versus cashing them in and then making the donation. So we'll take you through that. I'll take you through a quick and easy demo on how to donate securities on CanadaHelps, which is very simple. We'll then chat about the alternative minimum tax and the changes that are coming through actually very shortly, this month actually, through the federal government budget changes. So we'll talk about that a little bit. And then we'll do some Q&A. And as Pattie mentioned, she did have to bolt to another appointment, but we will make sure that we can address any and all questions and then get any to her directly if necessary. So why don't we go on to the next slide with benefits of donating securities. And there are many, and I've sort of outlined the sort of top ones here on the slide. Number one, of course, is impact. And I'm sure since many of you who have joined likely are already thinking about making a securities donation or possibly already have, you realize that giving to charities or causes that mean the most to you is an amazing way to make a positive impact and to just, leave a legacy if that's, what your intention is. At the same time, there's an incredible opportunity for tax savings. So when you donate appreciated securities, you can actually eliminate the capital gains tax that you would have otherwise incurred if you had sold them. And when we go through the example of the mechanics, that will be a little bit more clear in terms of what the savings are. So this means you can support your chosen cause while also reducing your tax liability. So that's a positive thing. That's a win-win right there. At the same time, you would receive a tax receipt at the fair market value of the securities when the securities are actually transferred to your charity or cause of choice. So that would minimize both your federal and provincial income tax that you would pay in the year that you make the claim. And just important to note that you don't have to claim the donation in the year you make the donation. You can actually carry forward any unclaimed donations up to 5 years. So that's also a very positive thing. And then, of course, the last major benefit is just simplicity and convenience when you donate through CanadaHelps. We do most of the legwork for you. And in fact, you can make a donation to any of Canada's 85,000 plus charities, some of whom quite frankly, don't have the ability to process securities donations. So we do that for them, and makes it easy for the donor, for yourself, and makes it easier for the charity as well. So just an important note too, that if you're thinking about transferring assets from an appreciated securities, you should always seek expert advice from either your financial planner, your tax specialist, or your broker, just to make sure that it's in your best interest. Okay, so we're going to move on to the type of securities that you can give. So essentially, any publicly traded securities can be given to charity, to any of Canada's registered charities. And that would be any securities that are listed on the public exchange, such as bonds, mutual fund units, and/or shares. And an important note is that CanadaHelps does accept securities from any country, but the funds will be converted to Canadian dollars before they are sent to the receiving charity. And as such, the tax receipt will be issued in Canadian funds as well. So an example of the mechanics. So in this chart, we've basically outlined the difference between selling shares and donating the cash, or donating the shares directly. So you can see in the middle column, that's where we have selling shares and donating the cash. So essentially in this example, we've got fair market value of shares at $10,000 Canadian. The adjusted cost base of shares, meaning what were the shares worth when they were first invested, is $5,000. And we've got the capital gain in both cases at $5,000. When you decide to sell the shares and donate the cash, what happens is you get taxed on the capital gain. So that's 50% of 2,500. So we're basing this on the $10,000 in shares. And what happens is you basically have a total cost of your donation is $6,650. When you look at the column at the far right, if you donate the shares directly, you essentially eliminate the taxable capital gain as well as the tax on that capital gain, which means you're saving $1,250. And that allows more money to go to the charity as part of your donation. And I'm happy to, talk through this example during the question period, but just to say that it is definitely more attractive to donors if they donate the shares directly versus cashing them in and then donating them. Because as you can see, it reduces your tax liability as well as increases the amount that is going back to the charity. Okay, so how can you donate securities through CanadaHelps? And it's quite simple, and I'm going to take you through this step by step. So the first step, actually, if we can go back one slide, the first step is actually going to the website. Sorry, can we go back 2 slides? Technical issues. Sorry about that, folks. There we go. So we've got an easy, website address to remember, CanadaHelps.org/securities. That will take you directly to our securities donation form. And from that point, all you need to do is, next slide, please, is complete the required information, whether you're making a donation of securities or mutual funds. And if there are stocks involved, you just enter in all that information. You can select a single or multiple charities. So in other words, if you have, if the value of the shares or mutual funds are enough so that you can actually, distribute them to multiple charities, you have that option, and you can do that all in a single transaction. Or you can simply choose one charity, totally up to the donor to decide. So once you do that, what happens is the system will generate what's called a letter of direction, or an LOD, which you simply need to download and then provide that to your broker or your financial advisor. And that will give them the necessary instructions to kick off the transaction, sell the securities, and then transfer the assets to CanadaHelps. And here we just have a sample letter of direction. And apologies, it's a bit small to see, but again, for anyone who would like to see this larger, we're happy to share these slides after the presentation as well. Okay, so in terms of next steps, once you've got that letter of direction, which comes in a PDF format, so you'll need Adobe Acrobat or a comparable system to actually download and sign off on that PDF. As I mentioned, you simply provide that letter of direction or the LOD to your financial advisor or your broker, and they initiate the transfer to CanadaHelps. And we partner with RBC Dominion Securities, and so they will take it from there, and the shares would be received and sold, and then cash proceeds are sent to CanadaHelps. At that point, we then redistribute those proceeds to the charity or charities, depending on how many have been selected as beneficiaries of the securities gift. And then we will send a tax receipt to the donor, typically within 3 to 5 business days after everything has settled. So it's a pretty fast and convenient process. And I can tell you, having actually worked with some charities that attempted to process securities donations on our own, it's a very complex process. And so having a charity like CanadaHelps as the go-between to facilitate these transactions is a game changer for many, many charities across Canada. Okay, and so let's talk about alternative minimum tax, which has been in the news quite a bit lately, especially since April, when the federal government announced some changes that are coming later this month. So the alternative minimum tax, or the AMT, has actually been in effect since 1986, and it was a means to bring fairness to the Canadian tax system. And it's essentially the government's way of ensuring that high-income earners or trusts are paying a minimum amount of tax. And it's kind of fluctuated over the years, but it's always best to, again, consult with either your tax or financial advisor for an estimate of whether or not alternative minimum tax is even something that you might be liable for or subjected to. In terms of, thank you. In terms of potential impact of AMT changes, so as of April, when the federal government brought down their latest budget, they are allowing individuals to claim 80% of the charitable donation credit, which is up from the previously proposed 50% when calculating alternative minimum tax. So there's a change there. The capital gains inclusion rate is now increasing as well from 0% to 30% for donations of stock, mutual funds, and other securities in the calculation of the alternative minimum tax, or AMT. And under the regular method of calculating tax, none of the capital gains on donated securities are taxable. So it's very important that to realize that this may not affect everyone when it comes to donating securities. It's those that are making a particular income and also based on their entire tax portfolio. So again, I can't stress enough, you have to speak with your financial or tax advisor when it comes to understanding implications to your personal tax situation. Now, the last point here is really crucial too, whether that 30% inclusion rate for donation of publicly listed securities is enough to trigger the AMT, or the alternative minimum tax, will depend on your specific situation. So it's not an always scenario, but it depends scenario. So important to keep that in mind. So now we've come to the end of all our slides and information. And hopefully there have been some questions that have come in through the chat. So let me just
Julie, I can announce some of these. So we have someone who says, is CanadaHelps helping to lobby Canadian government to increase eligible tax credits for donations? Any changes coming? And then there's a second part to that question.
Great, thank you. We are not directly lobbying government, but we are certainly working with some of our partners in the charitable sector, including Imagine Canada, on doing just that. So there will be more to come in that realm for sure. But I think it's important to note that CanadaHelps has not historically been in a position to lobby government, as we really see ourselves as facilitating donations for donors, as well as facilitating fundraising technology for charities. However, we do see the impact here across the board, and this is why we want to partner with some of the major players in the sector, including, as I mentioned, Imagine Canada, so that we can make our voice that much stronger.
Okay, and the second part to that question, well, I think it's a little bit separate. Also, the process is not that easy. My very large investment firm had all kinds of issues transferring shares to RBC without some other kind of direction from RBC. Trying again this year, though. I'm not sure if you want to comment on that.
Okay, fair enough. If the process didn't seem easy, we're happy to work one-on-one with, any donor who needs our assistance. So I think at the end of the presentation, we actually have our contact information. So please reach out, and we will also reach out to, if we do have the person who made the question, if we have their contact information, we'll reach out directly and hopefully set something up to help facilitate donation, or maybe even go through, the process step by step.
Okay, do you want me to keep reading these? Is it that easier for you, Julie?
Sure, yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, great. So this one is, does your investment advisor's report at the end of the year show the deposition of your shares to CanadaHelps as a non-taxable transaction?
That's a very good question. I think that would have to be for your financial advisor to answer. Yeah, we can't answer that.
Okay, and can you explain the 30% inclusion rate?
The 30% inclusion rate, on capital gains. Well, I will do my best to try and explain that. If maybe we can go back to that slide, Christina, that would be really helpful. Oops.
Did I go too far?
Yeah, a little too far.
Okay.
Yeah. What I can say, no, it's okay. Previously, there was, there was no capital gains previously. And so now, having gone up to 30%, it's very much dependent on an individual's tax situation, their income level, that type of thing. So it's challenging for me to answer, whether or not that would be applicable in every single case, because the reality is it's different for everyone. So again, I would have to defer to, speaking with your financial advisor. Yeah, that's the one. Thanks, Christina.
Okay, found it. Okay, and then we have, do the recipient charities have to be registered somehow with CanadaHelps in order to be available on your site?
Not at all. Recipient charities don't have to be registered with CanadaHelps. We actually, as part of the service we provide, we have every single registered charity in Canada is on our website and available in terms of donors who want to support them with a donation, whether it's securities or otherwise. And so whether a charity is fully registered with CanadaHelps in that they're utilizing some of the other more robust fundraising tools we have to offer, whether they are registered or not, we actually provide donors with the option to support any single of those 85,000 plus charities. So the answer is no, you don't have to be registered.
So Julie, Mel can help answer a few of those other questions. So please go ahead, Mel.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes. Hi. Yeah, I work in the finance and accounting department. Just speaking on the 30% capital gains tax. So similar to Julie's point, it would only be 30% off of the initial investment. That would typically be 50% if it wasn't an online donation. But on top of that, your individual income would have to be over $173,000. So it isn't applicable to all donations, as Julie mentioned, and this does not impact corporations as well. So just to keep that in mind.
Great, thank you, Mel. Okay, we have another question here. Does CanadaHelps charge a fee or receive a commission for their part in this?
We do charge a fee. I would not call it a commission though, because our fee model is very, very moderate, to say the least. Our fees, and maybe Mel can jump in, because it does depend on the amount of the security donation. Oh, there you are.
Yeah,
Thanks,
I can
Mel.
jump in for this one. No problem. So the fees for securities donations are between 2 to 3%, and it is dependent on the amount. So 3% is for securities less than $10,000, 2.5% for anything between $10,000 and $50,000, 2.25 between $50,000, $99,000, and then 2% for any securities donations over $100,000. So it is tiered fee.
Fantastic. Okay, and okay, we have a couple more questions here. Can you speak about donating securities in your estate or will? If I sell 10,000 of a security that I really like with a 5,000 capital gain, can I then buy it back the next day, or would the CRA consider that tax avoidance? I guess those are two questions.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Not sure if Mel can answer that, but I would really, defer to an estate advisor or a tax planner on that one. I wouldn't feel comfortable answering that. That's, yeah, beyond my expertise for sure. Sorry, but we can put that one aside and try to get the answer to that with through our partners at RBC.
Yep, if you can email securities@canadahelps.org, I can take that one and clarify. But when it comes to estate planning or really any sale of securities, the main factor is who's selling it and then also what the transfer process is. So if you had an estate and you were selling shares that have not been sold, it would go through the typical process. But the second that they are sold, that is subject to capital gains. So keep that in mind.
Great, I'll capture these questions as well so that we can follow up with additional information. And that
Perfect.
is,
Thanks, Christina.
That's the last question we have in the chat. Did anyone Want to add anything else? I can go to the next slide.
I see a question that just says, can I assume we will get the slide deck after the webinar? Absolutely, we can share the slide deck for sure. I also just wanted to bring to your attention that we do have an FAQ section on the website, which is actually quite comprehensive on security donations. So if you just go to that section of the site, you'll hopefully find some of the answers you're looking for, or please email us, as Mel said, securities@CanadaHelps.org, and we will do our best to answer your question as soon as possible. Okay, if there are no other questions in the chat, I think we will end it there and just say thank you so much for joining. And we hope that this was informative and also helps you make a decision in terms of a securities donation coming up. So thank you very much.